Hi, everyone, and welcome to season 6 of Behind Your Eyes. And in this third episode, my lovely guest is Kris. So, Kris, if you would like to introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you so much. It's beautiful to be here. My name's Kris Franken. I'm an author. I'm a mentor. I love to run women's circles and retreats. And I've written oracle cards and books. And so my main love is writing. And I live in Byron Bay, Australia.
Lovely. And well, I always start with the same question, which is a sincere, how are you doing?
Ah, I'm feeling really good. It's 5 o'clock in the morning on a Friday morning. I have really felt the full moon this week. It's really
Mm,
been a challenging week, but one that has been calling me into more grace and letting go of things and also creating more boundaries.
mhm,
So I feel now like everything that I'm choosing feels very on purpose and very much connected and aligned. And so
mhm.
being here with you feels like, no, I made this choice. I got up early and I'm so happy to be here. I feel really good.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I live by the moon, if you can say it like that. Every new moon, I make new intentions and goals for myself. On every full moon, I check it to see, how far along I am with those goals. And yeah, it was quite an emotional week as well for me. And like, okay, I still have a lot of growing to do. It just like put me on the spot or like a spotlight on myself and on the things that I still need to learn and grow.
Hmm. Yeah, I felt it was really helpful because it had something to do with Saturn, the Saturn's influence on the moon, and also Uranus's influence on the moon meant that we were going to move through the parts of ourselves that we definitely didn't want to see, and that really
Yeah.
prepared me for what came up, and just to be in acceptance of what was being shown to me by the illumination of the moon,
Mhm.
and just that beautiful state of acceptance and not needing to fix and not needing to
Mhm.
do the work or to, just to really be in that state of acceptance and allowing was so empowering for me this week. I've learned a lot, actually.
Mhm. But that's the most difficult part, I think, that the accepting and not the changing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. And I also read another quote, if I may share, that
Mhm.
a healer had shared with me that that you don't heal to change
Mhm.
the unhealed or the shadow aspects of you. You heal so that you can accept all of you. And I thought
Mhm.
that was really beautiful as well.
Mhm. Very powerful.
Mm,
Because I often think that we tend to heal ourselves to erase the negative parts of us or forget the negativity that has happened. But I also think that like, especially those parts help us to grow even
mm,
more in as a
mm.
human, as an individual, if we allow it to.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
And I would love to know a bit more about how you found your purpose as a spiritual way shower, which by the way, I love that term. Yeah, how you got to where you are now in your life.
Um, I've always had this really strong drive to help others.
Mm-hmm.
Even in school, I was helping other people who didn't understand something that I loved and understood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I studied psychology and sociology at university after I finished high school. And then so I got to understand people on a different level, well, actually on many different levels. It really opened up my eyes to people and humanity and the way people think and the way people, I guess, need help. I
Mm-hmm.
then, I worked in hospitality for a long time, which connected me beautifully to a whole lot of people, and I really loved that kind of service. But I was craving something a bit deeper, and then I ended up working as a journalist, and I became a beauty and health editor, which felt really empowering to be able to help people to
Mm-hmm.
be to have a voice in a national magazine in Australia felt really empowering, just to be able to say, okay, I'm going to sneak in as much positivity, as much empowerment, as much love into these 3 pages or this one little page, or just to really help people to feel better, that I don't care if they're here to buy a new mascara or to learn more about something a bit deeper. I really wanted to share my light through there. A lot of it was quite unintentional. I just wanted to be positive rather than to be, this is wrong and that is wrong. And when I finished, when my job was made redundant, I became a freelance writer. So I got to write for a whole lot of magazines at the same time. And that felt like a dream come true as well. It felt like I could do the same thing, just on a different way. Then I had my kids. After my kids were born, I started to write cards, because I felt like there was this huge trend around conversation cards, oracle cards, tarot cards, affirmation cards. And I thought, what an amazing way. I love my books, but people usually just read a book once and it can change their lives. And I love that about books, but cards can become a daily ritual for people, even for years on end. So to be able to write cards for me was a real dream, to be able to guide people in that way. And my guidance for people has always been to look within. So it's not do as I do. And that's what a way shower is. It's well, this is what I'm doing. And if you feel so inspired by any of this, then look within to see what could be your daily ritual, or what could be the one thing that lights you up so much, that you would get up this early to talk about it, or that you would, want to share it so much every day from your point of view. So that's always been my passion, is helping people to really open up their hearts and listen in that space to hear what is being said and to follow that.
Because how important is it for people to find their own way of healing?
It's so important to find your own way. And I know that everyone is inspired differently. Some people, if you look at your astrology, if you look at your human design, if you look at a whole bunch of different ways that you can get to know yourself, then you can see how you can heal and learn and grow and find your purpose so much more powerfully. But I think it always must come from within. So for some people, that means actually copying someone else just for a little while. And that's like putting the training wheels on their bike. And then when they're ready and they say, oh, I see, this is how I can apply that for me, that feels completely aligned and beautiful, then I can take the training wheels off and I can just make a run for it on my own bike. But for other people, they don't like to copy other people at all. They like to be so independent and unique, and they need to really try and fail and try and fail and keep trying things until they find something that feels so them, and it feels like they couldn't, it feels like breathing, like they just really could.
So it's like they have to find something that, now that they discovered it, they can't live without it anymore, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And what was the main thing or most important thing for you that you've learned on the path to where you are now?
Wow, what a great question. The most important thing that I have learned is that I think the most important thing that I've learned is that selfish and stubborn is can be really positive attributes, but to women all over the world, we've been told that we shouldn't have a strong voice, we shouldn't be stubborn about what we believe, and that we shouldn't be selfish, we should be in service. Especially as a mother, we feel guilty for being for wanting for wanting not only what we need, but what we really desire, what we really want, the playfulness and the things that seem unnecessary or that seem quite frivolous, I think is what I'm trying to say. So I think when I learned that actually people calling me selfish and stubborn was a reflection of their own insecurities, their own desires to do what they want to do, but they're feeling stopped themselves, and they're seeing me fully expressed, really on purpose, changing my career whenever I need to, so that it feels completely lit up and completely aligned with my soul and my heart. You know, other people's judgments are only ever a reflection of where they're at. And that's another really important thing that I've learned. But I love living in that word and understanding that word selfish and the word stubborn. I think about those words a lot, and I think, what a beautiful thing to be.
Yeah, that's very true. And how important is it for women, especially these days, I think, to be more connected to their feminine energy?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that growing up, I was very much connected to my masculine, but I'm really lucky that I had my mum, who very quietly reflected a very strong feminine presence to me, so that later in life, I was able to bring that to life. I feel like I'm still to find that balance, to really revel in my feminine energy, to not only allow her in, but some days to really ask her, the feminine within me, to lead, to show me the way. Today is about rest, so I need to tune into my feminine. What will I eat that feels nourishing? How will I rest? How will I play? Do I feel like journaling? To really let the feminine lead is actually creating balance for the masculine, and then there's less chance of the masculine within us feeling burnt out or feeling resentful or any of that. I think it's so important to come up with that balance these days. Definitely for men, and for women, I find it hard to speak to men about it. I feel like that's something that is much easier for men to learn from other men, to be honest. But I feel for females to really allow that feminine through, and for females who don't have boundaries, I know, just creating some really simple boundaries in your life around, and it's just a matter of knowing yourself more, than you can create boundaries around yourself for what is not right for you and what is not aligned for you right now. And when you have those boundaries, that's the masculine container that you create within yourself and within your life, that then the feminine within that gets to really flourish.
And have you ever struggled with any mental health issues during your spiritual explorance?
Yeah, definitely. I had anxiety for 40 years. I'll be 46 this year. I had anxiety all through my childhood, teenage years. I only really started to understand it when I studied psychology at university. So when I finished university, I found a really nice psychologist. I've seen a lot of psychologists. They helped me to a certain extent. And I think this is why I never pursued the path of becoming a psychologist, is because I couldn't really feel the embodiment. I didn't really see, as a Gemini, I love to understand things. So seeing a psychologist was very helpful for me to understand what was going on for me. I appreciated that, but it didn't really affect any change in my life. When my son will be 13 this year, and after he was born, my doctor diagnosed me with generalized anxiety disorder, postnatal depression. I'd never suffered depression, not for a minute in my life. But it does run in my family. And I think it was really a disconnection in my life when my son was born, a disconnection from my community. I didn't really have a close community around me that I was able to call on after his birth. So I really suffered that. I also was diagnosed with a displacement disorder because I had moved when he was 4 months old to a different part of Sydney. And so my mental health came crashing down to what I feel is like the tiniest little pieces, only for it to then be reborn into a much stronger version of me. And what helped me the most with that was shamanic healers and how do I say, I guess other like people who were my way showers and my spiritual mentors at the time. So that was in my late 30s and early 40s. But around about the time that I turned 40, I went to Mount Shasta in California and had the most amazing weekend and really found my own inner alchemist, which I had never understood how I could really alchemize my own inner mental state and how that felt in my body. And then also when I was about 40, 41, I connected with a spiritual mentor for a 10-month mentorship. And she gave me so many practices that were so embodied. And once that mentorship was gone, like I have not had a single anxious day. And if I do feel the physical experience of being anxious or some thoughts in my head, I have so many practices now that I can turn to really help myself move through that very quickly. And depression, I only experienced once after my son was a baby. And again, I had the practices and I had the vitamins and I had the knowing within me to know how I needed to process what was going on and what depression meant for me, what anxiety means for me, to be able to move out of that. So I feel like it's been quite a few years now of living without that. I have so much peace in my life. It's not a perfect state of mind at all. I'm human. I'm very human. I'm an overthinking air sign Gemini, but I am very much at peace in my life now. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot that you say because I've had anxiety for most of my life. And I'm also a Gemini.
Amazing.
Yeah, and just like you, like my life shifted when I've just turned 40, I'm about to turn 41. And it's like for some reason I can't even explain myself for already for several years I thought my life will really start at 40.
Huh.
And like I said, it's not something that I can explain, but yeah, my life started to shift when I turned 40. And it's a lot better, a lot happier, a lot calmer, a lot more flow. Yeah,
Beautiful. That's so
it's surprising
beautiful.
how I already sensed that or felt that from within. Yeah, it's crazy.
Mm.
Oh yeah, and but like you said, you no longer fortunately suffer from anxiety, but I can also understand that, well, like me, you're also an entrepreneur and you have to show up online, share your story. And how do you balance that online presence and sharing of your story with the stillness and a sense of peace and calm?
Mm. I find one of the things that brings me so much joy and so much really good energy is actually connecting with people online like this, sharing my story, whether it's with whether it's a podcast or just a conversation with someone, whether it's a client who has a lot of questions. I find that it gives me energy. Podcasts especially, I adore the medium of podcasts and online conversations. It really gives me energy and makes me feel really good. And I need to check in with my ego quite often as to, making sure that the ego isn't getting in the way, and it's not about, it's really, at the end of the day, it sounds like it's about me because the conversation is centered on me or the book or my journey. But at the end of the day, my intention is always to help anyone, whether they have, like in this conversation, anyone with a mental health disorder hopefully can feel just less alone and more closer to the help that they need. And whenever I talk about my book, I feel like anyone who wants to write can feel that they too have a voice that can be shared. So podcasts give me energy. then I do know for the rest of the day just to be really mindful what I say yes to, and how much I stretch myself, because even though I can be very extroverted, I can be very bubbly, I do know now my current state of energy, I've been healing for quite some time. And I do know how much I need the rest, and especially in the evening. I need a lot of rest in the evening. And if I don't get that, then it can actually burn me out very quickly. So I don't really go out at night. That's one way in which I keep myself balanced, is I don't like to go out at night. It's just very occasionally when I sneak out for an early dinner with my husband or with a friend. But I'm not one to go to the movies. I'm really mindful of crowds. If there's something that I want to do that involves, like, there'll be a lot of people or there'll be a lot of noise, it's usually a no, unless it's something that's really calling to me quite strongly. So I love my home time. I live on a beautiful property in the forest, and so spending time actually in with the trees helps to soothe me, and it brings me a lot of healing and a lot of peace each day.
And what is your favorite way of reconnecting to your inner self?
I love to journal with oracle cards when I really want to connect with something specific within me. If I need to ask perhaps my higher self a question, or my guides a question, and I want to get to know, a certain process that's going on within me that I may not be understanding very clearly, or that's how I like to get to know myself. Because I'm such an overthinker, I feel like I know myself so well. So one thing I really need to be mindful of as well is to actually just drop the energy of my mind down into my heart each day, and to really feel like a stronger presence in the middle. And I do that through yoga and walking and just listening to really calming music. Yeah, I think to get to know myself, and what's going on in my inner world is journaling. Definitely conversations with other people. They can bring illumination to, because it's never an accident, right? You don't ever have like an accidental conversation and then you just have this that's what's happening. It's so beautiful to have those conversations with people, because they can reflect something within me. Yeah.
Yeah, almost like a mirror.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And what would you advise someone who is currently struggling and wants to find healing in spirituality?
Um, my my advice would be that there are so many healers around the world who can help you, whether they are kinesiologists, energy healers, shamanic healers, mentors and coaches. My advice would be to really tune into, be really fussy about who you're connecting with. Someone might sound just absolutely amazing on their website, but my advice is to always go through a recommendation from a friend. So that's why it's really important to share with your closest friends what you're going through, because sometimes we do compound it with our own thoughts. Perhaps guilt and shame, or perhaps just hiding it, can compound it. So to be able to share yourself with other people, or to find excuse me, a mentor who you can share yourself with, is really important. And from there to really I mean, we're living in a new age, an age of light right now. So it is absolutely profound, and will get more and more powerful, the healing that we can find through energy healing, any kind of quantum healing, crystals. There's just, plant medicine, and not necessarily the big intense plant medicine journeys, but even cacao has been a healing journey for me. Or it might be a beautiful flower that wants to work with you and to help you bring healing. So be open to the way that Mother Earth wants to speak to you about where you're at and what you might need, and follow the breadcrumbs, as they say. Just keep keep praying to Mother Earth or whoever it is that you feel connected to. It could be a spiritual guide, it could be Source, it could be God. Keep on praying and sharing your prayers, and know that the right person is coming for you to help you. We know that all healing happens within. We know that we are the only ones who can heal ourselves, but it is really important that we do have a team, I believe, around us that can support us through that journey.
And when do you feel most connected to Source?
In meditation. I mean, I feel the connection wherever I am, but just to be able to sit, like, especially, you know, so many gurus over thousands of years have always said that there's this really powerful time around, I think they say around 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm not one to get up at 3 in the morning to meditate, but I do like to get up early before the sun. And if I do get up at 5 to meditate, there's such a profound stillness on earth and in my body, and my brain hasn't kicked in yet, which is a blessing. So if I just sit in that stillness, I feel wrapped up in Source. I feel so connected to that beautiful, healing, loving energy then. Yeah.
And what do you consider a sign from the universe? Do you have your own sign, or do you believe there are more general signs?
Yeah, all of it. Yes. Yes, and yes, and yes. I have if I'm connected to someone in spirit, for example, I have my mum's mum, my grandmother is very much with me in spirit. And I remember when my son was a baby, I asked her to show me a sign. And I said, I want to see it really clearly 3 times in the next 24 hours. And I did. And it was the Amanita mushroom. And so I whenever I see that symbol, I know that my grandma's close, she's watching over me, or maybe she has a message for me. I have signs and symbols from all types of guides. And I also, if I do see something repeatedly, like a few times, I'll definitely sit down and connect with it and say, okay, what is that trying to tell me? And I'll find out the personal message. And then I sometimes will look it up online to see actually what does that mean.
Yeah, it's funny because yesterday I was doing some grocery shopping and I was walking outside and it was just myself. It was quite a quiet day. And just suddenly out of nowhere, I saw a white feather just like that going right past me. I'm like, okay, that's a good sign.
Yeah, I love that. I love when feathers show up. It's magic.
Yeah, and I didn't see a bird anywhere near, so that was the crazy thing. I was like, for me, it felt like it came out of nowhere. So that was, yeah, that's when I personally feel a strong connection to the universe and to my guides. I'm like, okay, you're seeing me, you're hearing me. I'm
Yeah,
heard and I'm
beautiful.
seen. So yeah, that's my favorite way to connect. And also like you through meditation and just asking the universe, like, okay, I want to hear something from you. Can you speak through me or can you use me as a channel? Just, yeah, I want to hear from you.
That's beautiful.
And well, my last question is always the same as well. And that is, when are you at your happiest?
When am I at my happiest? On a summer's day, splashing in water. We have a pool here. We have a little creek on our property that we get to swim in after there's been a bit of rain. And there's also a beach about 40-minute drive from here, which I'm heading to in a few hours with my
Oh,
dog.
lovely.
So splashing in beautiful healing water on a summer's day, especially with my family and my dog. And I think that's definitely when I'm at my happiest.
Well, thank you so much, Kris, for today and for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's been so beautiful to connect with you. Thank you.
Thank you.